penalties now. Oh, what a strike that is.
It's nice, Trixie.
Emily Owen hoops it up towards Una Lou again. To Silver. Una Lou, and yeah! She gets that first goal of the...
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Women's Football Debrief, episode 8 this time. And once again, I'm Ben Stevens, and I'm joined, as always, by the one and only Owen Mason. Owen, how are you today?
Yes, not too bad, Ben. It's it's great to be, 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's nice and light, which is brilliant. So bring on the summer, bring on the beer gardens. That's what I say. World Cup's on the way. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
But it's been good. It's been busy. It's the tail end of the season now, so there's quite a lot of moving parts, isn't there? Still, obviously, as we'll get into, a lot to still be decided as well in the divisions, as we'll mention, in Tier 3 and Tier 4. But yeah, it's been a busy one, especially, not as busy as you are at the moment, because you're still in the final throes of your final year assignment. How's that going?
Yes, I think I've got 4 weeks today until it's due.
Wow.
Day of recording. So the first article is done, all ready to pretty much be done, just waiting on a couple of photos, but we're getting there with it. It's slow progress, but we're getting there with it. And, as I say, the light is at the end of the tunnel. So almost there. It's just crazy to think that uni and our time at Cheltenham Town Women is almost over as well. It's gone so quick these last 2 years. And yeah, the fact that we've got 2 games left of our season and then we're done. Crazy.
Yeah, it's incredible we say that, Ben. It's like you say, this season especially, I was saying this to quite a few members of staff and players over the last few days, that especially this calendar year of 2026 has just gone unbelievably quickly. I don't know what it is, where from the turn of the year, I don't know if it was that time we had off over Christmas and then we were back into it, and then we're in April. I just can't believe where we are. It just seems to have gone so quick. But it's it's been a really interesting few months for the league. We'll get into Cheltenham in just a moment, but obviously one of the big talking points of the weekend was my birthday. No, it was my birthday. that was a big thing happening on Saturday. Yeah, nothing else happened. No, but
nothing else.
What actually did happen, which was a lot more important, was the Women's National League Cup final, which had 2 bid players, in Bournemouth and Plymouth at Loftus Road, and it was quite unique actually, given that they'd already played each other a week prior in the lead. Plymouth got the better of that one, but quite a closely run
scoring
game.
the winner.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, what a fantastic achievement. She only came on in the 89th minute. Next minute, she goes and scores the winner. I've got to say, by the way, I believe it. Who had that original shot? I believe it was Paris Dalton, or I can't remember who had the original effort on goal. It was one hell of a save by the Bournemouth keeper. Tipped it onto the post. Like, oh my God. It was so unlucky that didn't just tip over the bar. But then Una, striker's instinct, she was there to just tap it in. Yeah. That was unbelievable. Fantastic. And then we go into the cup final with these two. And we mentioned it last week. We thought it was going to be a close run game. And that's exactly what happened, Ben, at Loftus Road.
Yeah, just 1-0. I think I was expecting not a high-scoring game, but maybe a few more opportunities almost. It was great to see it was such a high-quality game as well. And then what a way to win it, though. An Olympiaco from Kenny Thompson scoring in the plate last year against Cheltenham and now winning the cup as well for him. So fantastic for her. It's fantastic for Bournemouth as well, to do it at such a place like Loftus Road. It's a really good stadium for them to be hosting it at. And the fact that it was streamed on BBC iPlayer as well was just brilliant as well. I'd love to know kind of how many figures that brought in and how viewed it actually was, because for a lot of these players as well, there's a lot of them that are starting their careers almost, the likes of Una and stuff. So for them to get that exposure on iPlayer like that is just absolutely fantastic. And it's exactly what we want to see more of. So yeah, well done to Bournemouth. Commiserations to Plymouth. We've got a couple of Cheltenham connections at Plymouth, haven't we, with Una and Phoebe Paul as well. So it would have been nice for them to win it. But yeah, congratulations to Bournemouth. And now the attention's fully back on the title race for both of them.
Yeah, definitely so. It was funny actually when we were watching the cup final, even though Una was cup tied, which she was fuming about. She told us that, she was fuming that she wasn't involved in, because of course she played right all the way back in November in the last 16 against Swindon for Cheltenham. it feels ages ago now. That does, but that because of that game, she wasn't able to play. Not like the Men's FA Cup where Semenyo and Mark Gay were able to play for Man City in a new rule change this year. That was all a bit strange, but yeah, if you're cup tied, you're cup tied. I don't know why that was. I don't know what happened with that. Really, all a bit strange.
That's a rant for a different day.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Where was I? Tangents everywhere. Yes, that was it. Even though she was cup tied, there we go. Back onto Una. She when she came on screen to get a medal at the end, that got a big cheer out of me. I was like, "Grandad, it's Una!" And my granddad remembered Una scoring against Yeovil in the FA Cup back in the day, so that was nice. And another point about the FA, of the cup final being on iPlayer was, like you say, it gave, this level of tier 3 that we've been harking on about all season that has took that step up this year, and it's put it on such a great stage. And I've got to say, it's quite a surreal experience actually seeing a game like that on BBC because, it had great commentary alongside it. Obviously, forgive me, we don't know their names that were doing the commentary, but really good quality commentary. They knew their stuff. They were all clued up on everything. Yeah. And the great thing was they really told the story of the previous week of how much that game impacted the league standings, with Plymouth, getting quite a good position in the lead because of that late win. But, in a way as well, it gave the coverage that really Tier 3 does deserve. And I'd love to see, and we've mentioned this before, we'd love to see a potential deal with, if they can able to stream their games on YouTube, or maybe somebody will be able to pick it up, because it is a great level and it's only year on year going to be getting even better. We don't get into it, but Tier 3 next season is going to be one hell of a league. Incredible. So, yeah.
It's going to be quite scary almost to watch from an outside perspective, isn't it? It's going to be weird for us watching it from an outside perspective, but certainly that league, Southern especially, is just going to be crazy. I think there's, like we said, so many good teams in that league. And the fact that they're expanding the WSL now, and then the WSL2 hopefully will start expanding as well, getting more of these teams in. And I think as well with this, you're getting to the point where you're getting teams in the right league. Like I say, we're going to go more into it, but Fulham, for example, are now going to be where they should be. They should have been for, I think, a couple of years. They're a really, really good outfit, really, really well backed. So the fact that, spoiler alert, they are now going to be Tier 3 next season. So that is fantastic for them. Outfits like Swindon as well, just one off the top of my head. Like you say, everyone's starting to be at the level that they should be. And we're getting really, really competitive leagues all across, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely so, Ben. And that's what you want to see, because we've waxed lyrical about Tier 3 all season, where every single game now just seems to be that added pressure. And that's where we'll get into that, because every single division, barring about one, I think that's the Division 1 South East, where Fulham are already up, and I think the two teams are already relegated. Other than that, every single division with a few games to go has something riding on it, with, at both ends of the table, that's brilliant, because that's where last season it sort of tailed off, of course, with, MK were relegated fairly early, and because of certain things out of control in terms of the lead, it only ended up being one team relegated, didn't it, in our division in the end last year? Yeah. So that's where that sort of tailed off. The title race tailed off a little bit towards the end, even though it was still mathematically possible for Hashtag to win on the final day.
Mathematically possible if we'd have scored like 13 goals past a super Ipswich side. And,
ridiculous.
Well, there would have to be a swing of 13 goals somewhere across it, and they beat us 8-0. So that was the question. I think the weird thing with our league last year was, like I say, in the end, only one went down, but Billericay posted on the final day.
Oh, yes.
A defeat confirms our place in Tier 4 next season, because there was no confirmation until after the season that actually only one's going down. And I think that hurt Billericay a little bit going into this year as well. So that's another rant for another day. So yeah, like I said, there's something on the line in every single league at the moment, which is just fantastic to see.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah, just the final word on Bournemouth. That's like you said, it was a good win for them, and the great thing was they've had that unique thing of going back to back in either the plate or the cup. Of course, annoyingly for us, that plate final, we just wish it would have gone, the way of us coming up to about a year ago now, which I can't believe that's a year ago, which is ridiculous. Back at Oxford City.
Still waiting for our medals.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, that's it.
Tom.
Oh, that's right. We need one. That's right. But do you know what? It was for them, and they say Kenny Thompson, and Sophie Quirk, and you've got Kelsey Bowers, you've got McGuinness, you've got Hennessy at the back, you've got player of the match. She absolutely frustrated our attackers when they beat us the other week.
Yeah.
I remember Indy Power ended up with an injury, I think, out of that game actually, because that tall centre back was just on her marking it all day, and it was that was funny. That was
and it's back-to-back cups as well for
right.
Jessica Hennessy. Obviously,
of course, she won the League Cup,
Nottingham Forest last year.
That's right. So it's that's
fantastic for her.
Brilliant, and that like you say, that those players have done so well for Bournemouth, and the incredible thing is with that Bournemouth side that we'll go straight into the Southern Division because that's our main focus, being part of it all year. But the Southern Division this year is such an interesting one because Bournemouth, because of that defeat last week, I say 2 weeks ago now to Plymouth in the league, they still have 2 games in hand on Plymouth. However, they're 6 points behind, and theoretically they can still finish top. They need Watford to have an absolute capitulation at the end of the season. They are top by 4 points at the moment with 2 to go. So if they beat Gwalior this weekend, and just a word on Gwalior, they gave themselves a fantastic win at the weekend against Bedford. That was a really, really good win for them. We kept an eye on it when we were in our County Cup game against Bristol City under 21s at the weekend. Shame there wasn't anything on that, because that would have been quite the competitive game, I think, if that was a semi-final. However, that was a reschedulement, wasn't it? But yes, with Watford, they're 4 clear, and they can beat Gwalior. If they go to beat Gwalior, they will be champions. And I believe, Ben, out of everyone, they are deserving champions because they've been the most consistent team all year.
Definitely, yeah. And I think what's frustrating from us as a Cheltenham perspective is that fantastic game we gave them at Kate Lane. Yeah. That 4-3 victory for them. What a thrilling game of football that was. I think that is one of the best games I have seen all year. Yeah. Both teams were absolutely on it. Some brilliant goals from both sides. Such a great advertisement for the league. But yeah, Watford have just been a brilliant outfit. I mean, when we went away to their place, I was about to say a couple of weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago now. Can't think when that game was. You look at them, they're a fantastic outfit. They've got some brilliant supporters as well. Really good coach in Rene Hector as well. So I think they definitely deserve to go up. It's took them a couple of years since they came down to kind of stabilise almost and put together a good run, because they've been there and thereabouts the last few years, haven't they? But this year, I think they've been on it from the start. They look really, really good. And like I say, fully deserve, I think, to be champions this weekend if they get past Gwalior. But Gwalior have turned a corner under Corey Williams-Mills, haven't they? So that will be certainly an interesting game to keep an eye on. You could see Gwalior sneaking a point somehow, couldn't you?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
just see it.
That's right. Well, they're get my words out. They're no muds, are they, Gwalior? Because as you say, under Corey Williams-Mills, they've actually, like you say, had a real marked improvement. They've always been a tough side to beat. However, since that appointment, they've got some really good points on the board, especially that, the greatest one for them, I think, was that 0-0 against Plymouth. That really stunted Plymouth for a little bit, because at one point, Plymouth looked like they were going to be consistently challenging Watford, for that top space in the division. But that was like you say, I think they'd just come off beating Billericay, I think, the week before, and they were, they just got through to the League Cup final, and it looked like nothing was going to stop Plymouth. They were on one hell of a run, and that was like you say, Gwalior got a really good point out of them. And this season they've done that, and they've frustrated us twice with 2 draws as well. So they know how to get that gritty performance, and to beat Bedford, who, albeit have fallen away in recent weeks, have had a good season. Bedford, they've kept themselves really consistent all year. We're really fighting to get into that top 4, for a good chunk of the season. Especially after just coming up as well. So that shows again how competitive this year's been.
Yeah, Bedford surprised me when they came up, and full credit to them and what Charlie Bill's done there this season. I think when they kind of came up, a lot of people maybe thought that they'd be one of the ones fighting down the bottom. Yeah. And they've come up, they look a really, really strong outfit and cemented themselves as a really, really strong Tier 3 side now. And you never know next year with how crazy this league is going to be, as we've said, you almost think that anyone could go and win it. All it needs, it almost is a good couple of wins together, and you're right up there at the top, aren't you?
That's right. And, I was just thinking of Watford, and we just mentioned that the other week with the game, where that attacking front line is, it is the best in the league because it is so frightening. Frida Ayisi, Lashante Paul, Madison Perry, they only just signed Olivia Carpenter as well from Lewis, which is a brilliant signing. We
on a full-time contract as well.
That is brilliant. And if you're able to do that as a club, if you're able to get players in the league, similar to how Una was, scouted and been signed for Plymouth, that's where some really good moves can happen in this division, because you look at where these players that are doing so well, like for Lewis, who are a consistent team, they are in no risk of going down. They are a very consistent outfit, are Lewis, and they might try and push on for next year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where, Olivia Carpenter, every time we played Lewis, I believe she at least got a goal almost every time we played against them. She was a fantastic player, and I always thought, there was some, Leah Lane at Lewis as well, another brilliant young player who's doing really well. And there's some really good players in this level that can just go to that next level, and that is a really good signing for her to go to Watford. And it just adds to what is already an already scary lineup up front, because they, beat Billericay by 14-0, and you look at, even beating Exeter, who are, as we just said, a good side as well in Exeter. Maybe not had the season they wanted, but they've had a lot of injuries. Yeah. So it's, they beat them 5-0 at the weekend, which is only, only really us, and, well, we beat them 4-0 in our, back in December. But other than that, Exeter haven't been absolutely battered this season. So that's quite a shock for them.
Yeah, and I think, 6-1 against Hashtag as well, 4-0 against Wimbledon, 4-3 against Oxford. So that's their second 4-3 of the season. But then they beat Gwalior 7-0 in the reverse fixture. So that will be a tough one. And yeah, you just look at their results, but then you see teams like Bedford getting a point against them. So, they've been very, very good. But at the same time, if they're not on their game, they are vulnerable as well. But yeah, you do look at their attacking lineup and some of the players that they brought in. Getting Liv Carpenter is a great deal for them on a full-time contract as well to go up to the Championship, looking likely. Yeah. So that will be, it's a fantastic move for her. Like I say, just some brilliant players. They deserve to go up. It's just who does go up with them if another goes up with them. That's the big question, isn't it?
Do you know, that is the big question, Ben, because I said to you in the week, and when I said it, when I just worked it out in my head, I was like, that's unbelievable, because the top three in the division who have been incredible this year, Bournemouth, League Cup champions, Plymouth get into that final as well, but they're currently second and looking like they're going to push Watford right to the final day or try and get into that playoff themselves. And then that top three, and Watford, of course, who are going to win the lead, it looks like, at the moment. However, there is a possibility, obviously, if you look at how the lead standings are now, Watford will go up. That is them in the WSL 2. That is, job done. Now, obviously, there is then only one more space for a potential playoff final there out of those two in the Southern Division. So that leaves a guarantee that one out of those three sides will be in the division this season. And as you just said, if they were to lose to the Northern side, which we'll get onto in a moment, that means 2 out of the 3 will be in the league next season. And on a wider point, as we just said about the league, a league that is scarily getting more competitive every time. You can watch. I honestly can say this now. The Southern Premier Division next year will be the lead to watch over the whole WNL, because that is unbelievable. Because you look at teams coming up. Fulham have just come up. They are on back-to-back promotions. They come into Tier 3. Swindon, I know it's not done for them yet. We'll get on to them. They might possibly come up. And then if you've still got 1, 2 out of the 3, then Oxford still in the lead. Then you've still got Lewis. You've still got Cheltenham. You've still got... There's so many teams there. Bedford... That is an unbelievable lead to watch. And then a team that comes down from the WSL 2. Like, that is just ridiculous, Ben. The quality of that lead next season will be something to behold. It's a pity we're not covering it.
I know. It'll be... We'll have to go and watch a few games. You're not going to get us away from Cheltenham that easily, Tom. You know that now. But I think what's amazing is you look at the league from last year in the league table. So Billericay finished on in 11th place with 17 points, and Plymouth in 10th place with 20 points.
Wow.
Now, you look at the league this year,
Wow, yeah.
hashtag in 10th have already got 19 points. So
Yeah.
could easily finish on more than 20. Wimbledon could finish on more than 20. That would mean that a team that gets relegated would finish on over 20 points,
Incredible.
which you would have almost assumed at the start of the year would almost get you that safety mark.
Yeah.
So you look at that and you just think, that is incredible. And the fact as well, from a Cheltenham perspective, once again, 6 wins still, but that 7th will equal the record again. 4 more points will equal the points record. 10 more goals would equal the goals record. And if we conceded less than 3 in the last 2 games, that would equal that record.
Yeah.
We could break, I say we, the players could break all the records again for Cheltenham and finish in 10th and finish, in one of the lowest positions that they have in Tier 3. And I think that just shows how fantastic this league is getting and the Women's National League is getting. And you almost look at it and you think, does it need a title sponsor to come in, throw some more money, let's get it on TV and help then expand even more? Because there is too many teams that are too good to be at this level and should be, in the WSL and 2 and WSL, your Plymouths, Bournemouths, even Oxford, they're a very, very good outfit at the moment. Your Fulham, Swindon, it's unbelievable. On, really, couldn't you?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It is
you look
unbelievable.
At the northern section of it as well. You've got Burnley. We'll move on to the northern section as I've started it now, I guess.
Don't
Burnley sitting top on 56 points. 4 points behind, you've got Wolves.
Yeah.
And then on 39 points, you've got Rugby in 3rd. But that's a really good league as well. Sporting Kansas sit bottom at the moment on 10 points. Loughborough and Halifax are then joint second bottom on 15. That's an amazingly close league as well, It's, what do you make of the northern section? Obviously, we've not been keeping as close of an eye on it as we have the southern, but looking like a very strong league as well, Owen.
Yeah, it was a big win for Loughborough actually at the weekend. I messaged Doris Greenwood after the game. She put it on a story. I think even if there was there's so many Cheltenham Leinsters. I think even Ella Pemberton was watching, wasn't she, at the Loughborough game? And as you said, I think they beat Hull 1-0 at the weekend, which was a big old win for them. That because they now still have a big old chance to stay up. They are level on points now with 10th place Halifax. Cowsa still a bit more work for them to do. It looks like they might go down to Tier 4, which wouldn't be a bad move for them because it is a tough league that, playing teams like Burnley and Wolves and Rugby, it's some tough games. Even West Brom have improved to get to the semi-final of the League Cup just a few months ago and gave Bournemouth a good game. And it's, beat Wolves, which was a big shock, actually. We said it at the time. That was a big shock for them to beat Wolves at the time because Wolves looked like they were absolutely storming. It was one of their only defeats in quite some time, actually, Wolves. And you look at it and, for whoever stays in that league, that'll be really crucial because you see that's where that Northern Division, there's a possibility there that somebody could go down on 20 points. And, that's where it's quite mind-blowing there. Yeah. And then you look at the other end of it, you've got 2 sides who are unbelievable. You've got Burnley and Wolves. So Burnley have only dropped 4 points all season, for goodness sake. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like that is a fantastic record. And then Wolves,
still unbeaten.
That's incredible. Like that is truly incredible. And Wolves only 4 points behind them. They have the game in hand, so it's not all done there yet. It's not all done there. So if they were to win against Rugby tomorrow night at time of recording, they only go a point behind them with 2 games to go. So that's where it gets a bit tasty for the final few games. But we've focused on this unique playoff, haven't we, all year because it gives that one-off really a bit of a chance for that second place team in either division that, like you say, could have an absolute world-beating season but might not go off. Of course, back in the day, it used to be, I'll say back in the day, only a few years ago, just the season before I joined the club, where the first place teams were in a playoff anyway for promotion.
Yeah.
So they ended up almost having a playoff. They could have done the whole season unbeaten. So it's the equivalent of Burnley this season, doing the whole season unbeaten. oh, sorry, guys, you've lost to Watford, you're not going up. What? Like, how
Yeah.
does that work? And that's why they had to change that. And this season, now you've got the one-off for the second place teams, where, as it stands at the moment, of course, Bournemouth still have 2 in hand, but at the moment, it looks like it's going to be Wolves versus Plymouth, which, as a one-off game, that is a brilliant game of football, isn't it?
Yeah, it really, really is. It's going to be so interesting to go and watch. Hopefully, we've said that if Plymouth are there, we will try and go down and watch that, especially. It'll be such an entertaining game that I think you just don't know who would win it as well, because the leagues is, really, really equal. The Northern isn't better than the Southern and vice versa. So you genuinely don't know which way that would go. And that could go all the way to extra time and penalties as well. You genuinely wouldn't be able to call that game.
That's right.
That will be one hell of a game of football to go and watch. Having those 2 teams and then one of them almost not get promoted is going to be incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's almost really hard to put into words, like how good of a season you can have, and then it comes down to a one-off game, and then you're not on your game on that day, and then that's it. You've got to have another season in Tier 3, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah,
I think for some teams like Bournemouth, you look at it and you think, okay, we started off really well, but we did drop off.
Yes.
Can we use next year to go even better? And get even stronger, recruit all the best players, and then be able to go from there. Because there's also not a guarantee that everyone going up will stay with their current teams that they're with.
That's right.
So there will be players that then want to drop into Tier 3 and stay within Tier 3. A bit like Sophie Quirk, and then who can pick that player up? That will kind of also determine who's going to be in that title race next year, I think. Northern and Southern Premier, 2 fantastic leagues to keep an eye on. We can't advertise it more, can we? Such a brilliant standard of football. Even if you're at the other end of the table, it's such a good standard of football to come and watch. So it's going to be so interesting, especially next year, to keep an eye on. But who you're predicting then? Wolves or Plymouth? If we're saying that's the playoff.
Yeah, do you know it's
throw it on you.
It's a funny thing. I was just thinking that because it's famous last words, isn't it? Because obviously Bournemouth, they might be going, hang on a minute here. Helen Blizzard might be listening and going, hang on, we can still get in that playoff. But that's if she listens. But there you go. But yeah, you can't write off Bournemouth. However, they like you say, they have had that slight drop off with obviously when they lost to Oxford to end that over 1,000-day run of unbeaten games, which was unbelievable. But then losing to because that was for them to lose to Oxford, and then they've had a few games against it was Hashtag where they had to get a late leveler, and the draw against Exeter, and of course the defeat to Plymouth last week is all just sort of just those points can be dropped. Those points dropped, are so crucial because you can sometimes you can afford to lose a point or 2 here or there. However, when the margins are just so tight, that's where because that's where Plymouth have had the pressure on them as well, just to keep perfect, because they know that Bournemouth have still got those games in hand. Of course, they Bournemouth this weekend play Wimbledon, which at the other end of the table is quite a crucial game for Wimbledon. Yeah. That's their game in hand. No, it isn't their game in hand actually, because it's they'll play next week, because Cheltenham do play this weekend and they play Hashtag. And you look at Cheltenham Hashtag this Sunday coming, and it's just sorry, you asked me predictions. I've just gone into a massive tangent now, but I will just answer your first question. Yes, that's it. We'll go. I think the playoff final will be Wolves Plymouth. I think Bournemouth will push it right to the final day, but then they have Watford on the final day, which it's a pity that wasn't the first versus second battle for the league title. It could still be, it really could still be, but I do think it will be Plymouth to seal that second spot. However, that can all change if Plymouth end up losing this weekend. And they have Oxford, actually, don't they? So that's quite a tough old game for them. So that's not good, is it? So, especially after coming off the cup final, they want to get back to winning ways. So, goodness me, the drama in this league, I tell you what, it just carries on and on, doesn't it? But for yeah, if it's Wolves Plymouth, that is a tough old game. Oh, that is big. Of course, it could end up also being Burnley going into if it goes to 1 point behind. They need to win that tomorrow, Wolves, just to really still have that as a chance. But yeah, if it's a one-off game, Plymouth had one hell of a performance against Burnley in the League Cup semi-final.
Yeah.
So I would be rooting for them. It'd be a close old game. I think there'd be only a few goals in it, but I think Plymouth would win that on the day. What would you say?
I think I'd agree. I think the way Plymouth turned it on against Burnley after going a goal behind was fantastic, and they have got that quality to be able to do that. Like you say, I could see it being 1 goal in it. I'd be tempted to say like 2-1 Plymouth if it was against Wolves. And yeah, it would literally go right down to the wire. That could almost be an Unaloo last-minute winner again. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? A brilliant story that would be. But yeah, I think... I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I think it could go to penalties. And then, what team sneaks it on penalties? It's so difficult to call.
I think that would just be like you say, it would just be a real great heavyweight clash, wouldn't it? 2 absolute powerful outfits who've scored goals for fun this season. You look at these sides that are just, it's unbelievable. Like the quality in both of these sides it really is something to, like you say, it really just puts a big spotlight on Tier 3 because this is why it's one of the best levels to watch because the quality of it is just improving year on year. And yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. But even so, Ben, that this weekend I know we've come back to the Southern, but this weekend is crucial for the Southern relegation fight, isn't it? Really, because it's with it being Cheltenham Hashtag, they then don't play till the final day of the season. Cheltenham, they play Billericay on the final day, so Cheltenham know, and we say this from a Cheltenham hat on. They know they need to win this weekend, Ben. However, in the last hour or so, we've had some breaking news, haven't we? Which is, on time of recording, we'll know because it's already been posted that Poppy Irvine, through injury, has been recalled back to Birmingham City. So, with 2 games to go, that's not the twist in the tale that Cheltenham wanted at all, really, Ben.
No, it's a real shame to lose Poppy. We've seen she's a brilliant goalkeeper and she's a really, really good character as well. It's a shame. It's a shame to lose her through injury like that. A really good keeper, like I said. Just against Plymouth at Home Park, she made some fantastic saves. But Anna Draper, full confidence with her. I think it's not a worry for me to have Anna stepping in at all. She's a fantastic goalkeeper in her own right. And we saw against Bristol, the defence trust her to play out from the back. So I think it's not losing your number 1 goalkeeper's obviously a big hit and a big worry, but having Anna in is, the best it could be. Definitely. I don't think we'd be able to get a better keeper other than Anna. So credit to her, full confidence in her, and I think we'll touch wood, we'll be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a tense old end to the season. It's all dependent on this weekend because if obviously Wimbledon have Bournemouth, so that's not an easy game for them at all. Like Bournemouth will know that they can still fight for that promotion playoff, so they'll be going in all guns blazing. But for Wimbledon, that was a game and a half a few weeks ago. It was the 2-2. Goodness me, like that was what a whirlwind of emotions. Wimbledon went 2-0 up. It looked like they were going to get an incredible win. It would have only put them 1 point behind us in the relegation scrap. And then that's where Cheltenham, they knew they needed to do something, and that's exactly what they did. Mo in with the penalty. They were fighting all that second half, and I thought, not done yet. If Wimbledon would have got that third, that would have been done and dusted. See you later. Yeah. But I just thought at 2-0, when it was off the line, you were right behind it. It was off the line, and I just thought there's a few chances left in this game, and then 10 minutes left. We got the penalty. Mo in, as always, calm and collected. And I thought, yeah, this game ain't over yet. And then just kept peppering their goal. And one of the assists of the season from Amelie Curtis, what a cross that was. You know, I was, as you, any of you listeners or viewers would have seen me go absolutely mental on the commentary. My favourite goal to commentate all season, because it meant so much to the club just to be able to, it was a crucial point, because it's been, it's, 2026 for Cheltenham through, you can say it, no fault of their own, because to put it quite bluntly, it's been crap luck with injuries and players leaving. It has been quite terrible, really, in terms of the players who've left, as players who've left through joining other clubs or of their own accord, which is, it happens at this level, as we've said many a time on this podcast. However, the injury luck, to lose players, at a time that we've had Izzy Noons out, we've had Owen out, we've had, some of these players that have been out injured. There's been Megana, Cassie, like it's just unbelievable how many players we've had out at a certain time. And, players have come in, and have done well. The likes of Indy Power, who was an opponent the other day, which is quite funny in the County Cup. Yeah, incredible. She's come in and done really well. Georgia Galley's come in. Millie Pullen, another bright spark in the club as well. However, the problem is when it's just been so stop-start in terms of, sometimes we haven't had a game for 2 weeks, or sometimes we haven't, we've had those players injured or suspended. It's really been hard for Cheltenham to just get a consistent run going. And it's a shame, because now we've got 2 left. But the incredible thing is, Ben, as you mentioned, records can still be broken with 2 games to go. Yeah. So that's where this season can still end on a high. And I really do think for Cheltenham, if they were to stay in Tier 3, it'd be one hell of a challenge next year. Don't get me wrong. As we just mentioned, the league will be the toughest it's ever been, in terms of the amount of quality. But I think if you're in the midst there, that's where it will be, for players that might want to come into the club, that's where it might be the appeal of being involved in quite a competitive league. Yes, it'd be a hard league, as we mentioned, but, if you're still in Tier 3, of course, if you do go down, God forbid, it's not the end of the world. However, Cheltenham are still in that good position to stay up this year, which is great. But it's just incredible. It's come to these final 2 games, and it's going to be a tense old end. But hopefully, we alleviate some of those nerves of a big old win this weekend. It's going to be quite a big game, and hopefully, we get a few fans through the door for the final home game of the season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just before we move on to Tier 4, just to touch upon the point that you made about injuries, summed it up really, really well.
Yeah, that's
didn't she, in the last episode, saying the amount of games we played last year, and we had injuries, but not any major long-term injuries like what we've experienced this year. I remember, I think Jess was out for a little while, Jess Leach, Lily Wellesley Davis was out for a little bit, but Fionn as well with her ankle, and playing in the plate final when maybe she shouldn't have been, but she put in a hell of a performance that day. And then, this year we're playing less games and the injuries are so much worse. It's crazy. But like you say, it's almost not the end of the world if the club does go down, but they're in a good place. I think it's in their hands. Billericay on the final day would have, no disrespect to Billericay, it would have been nicer to almost have played them earlier in the season, have the points on the board now, rather than potentially going into the final day and needing something. But a win or a draw against # for Cheltenham, as long as Wimbledon lose to Bournemouth, will mathematically keep Cheltenham safe in Tier 3 for another year. And then preparations start for the 2026-27 season. That's crazy to say.
Wow.
Which will just be weird for us to, like we've already said, keep an eye on from an outside perspective. So we'll definitely have to get down to some games. We could do the podcast live from Pate Lane, couldn't we? There's an idea.
That's it. Get some players on after a big win against top of the league Bournemouth. Hey, there you go. Who knows? There you go. It could be an incredible one. But this season it will be a really interesting league to, because we've always had that affinity for the Southern Division. Having worked in it for this my 3rd season now. This your 2nd, and it's that is where. But it's been great to see that year on year that improvement, and I think Tom Davis and the coaching staff and the players will still want to be in the mix in Tier 3 next season, and they want to seal
Definitely.
that, as you say, mathematically can seal it this weekend with a win over Hashtag. So,
Yeah.
brilliant. No, so it'd be a really interesting game this weekend, and it'd be nice going into that final day that there's no nerves going into that final day, that we know that we are mathematically safe already. So, but yes, there you go. It's going to be a really interesting end, and it's, as we say, we've absolutely gone ham on the Southern and Northern Division there because there is so much on the line.
Yeah.
But in Tier 4, Ben, there's also still a lot on the line. Apart from the Division 1 South East, as we mentioned earlier, Fulham are already up, and two sides are already relegated, unfortunately for them. Norwich for them have had a really good season, and for them at one point looked like they were going to push Fulham all the way. However, Fulham, have looked consistent all year again, a side that this is, their second promotion in succession now. So for them, it's a really good move, and for them to go up to Tier 3, as we mentioned earlier, wow, they'll be a good old side, and they'll recruit well, I think, as well in next season.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're really going to be one to keep an eye on. Obviously, it was a 3-0 win against MK Dons on the weekend at Craven Cottage, which secured the champion title for them, which is just, brilliant. And they'd say Chesham United and AFC Sudbury already down in that league, which is a shame. But, you look at that league as well, and you've got, like you say, Norwich on 49 points at the moment, London Bees on 38, Chatham Town on 37. There's QPR as well. There's so many good teams in that league, and that's could certainly, like we say, for all these leagues, be one to keep an eye on, because you look at it for next year and it's like, well, who would come up out of that? You'd probably look at Norwich and QPR as two of the favourites, but London Bees, Chatham, even Actonians and Luton aren't teams to be counted out, are they?
No, certainly. It's a very, very interesting tier in Tier 4. That's where this season they've really, in terms of how many games, as we've kept an eye on that league, because there's been some really good games in that league, and of course, as we mentioned with QPR, there was a few players of former Cheltenham persuasion that have, Jess Leach, Megan Smith, Leo Wellesley Davis, who they've done well to play some good games at Loftus Road this year, and look really good. So that is another tier that is going to do really well. And I think with the teams, Norwich will be going straight up there again. They'll be wanting to get another promotion out of that next year as well. But yeah, that'll be an interesting league to keep an eye on. So will the Southwest, because Swindon, as we know, they are in the driving seat as it stands at the moment. However, it was a bit of a shock defeat for them against Moneyfields. No, not Moneyfields. Moneyfields is second. I'll get that right in a minute. It was Bridgewater, wasn't it?
Yes.
There we go. But Moneyfields, I say, are on their tail. They're only 2 points adrift with a game in hand, which is the crucial thing. And that's where at one point Swindon looked like they were going to absolutely blitz the lead. And I don't know if it was when they lost that first game of the season that perhaps maybe a bit of their confidence went, because they completely, with the confidence they did have, they were unbeaten, weren't they? Especially when we played them. They didn't lose a game. They say they were they were unbelievable, really, in terms of how much quality they had, and the, in terms of, then they lost that FA Cup game quite convincingly to Charlton, actually, and the League Cup game, didn't they, to Bournemouth. And then Moneyfields have just kept knocking on the door, haven't they? Where, I think they really could push them. Of course, they got to the plate final. Unfortunately for them, they lost to Cheadle. Congratulations to Cheadle, who won the plate final on penalties. Nonetheless, it was a fantastic win for them, wasn't it? But for the great thing is, for Cheadle, they had a really good win on penalties in the final. But we'll get on to them in a minute. They've got a hell of a schedule just to catch up with the league campaign. I wouldn't want to be any of their Cheadle players or coaching staff. But for the Southwest League, that can still go down to the wire. I do think that's a tough one to predict, actually. Yeah, I'll carry on my point about Swindon, actually. Because the one thing about Swindon was, on my tangent, as always. But, with Swindon, as I say, maybe they lost a bit of confidence, because then they weren't absolutely blowing teams away, were they? Once they'd lost those few games in the lead. And I don't know what it was with Swindon there. But then, we do have to mention, actually, and it was quite a bad injury for somebody I know quite well who was at Cheltenham, Charlie Taylor, who injured her tibia, broke her tibia, I believe, actually, as well, after that game against Bridgewater, which was a big shame. You know, one of our media at Cheltenham, who is, you know, hoping to join come next season in Larney, good old Larney Price. Good shout out to her on the Women's Football Debrief. She'll like that. But she obviously did work at Swindon and knew obviously the players and informed me of that at the weekend. And I was quite sad to hear that, because she's only just come back from an injury herself, Charlie Taylor, and you know, she was a great player for Cheltenham back in the day. So it's a shame to see she's out again with what looks like quite a long-term injury again for her. And it was quite a bit of a shock defeat. I know Bridgewater have just started to creep up a little bit now in terms of the top 5 or so. But yeah, that is going to be a tough one to predict, because Moneyfields, they know how to get results, as we've just seen with the plate final. Yeah. So, you know, their route to the plate final, I should say, not their final result, I should say. But yeah, they always are. They always are a consistent side. Even when we played them in the FA Cup last season, I know it was a bit of a different side. However, they pushed Cheltenham all the way, didn't they, last season? So they know how to grind out results, and I think that's going to go down right to the final day, especially if they win that game in hand. So,
and you know what makes it even better, Owen? Their final games. Moneyfields have got Bristol Rovers this weekend.
Wow.
Then on the 12th, they have Marine Academy Plymouth away. Swindon are at home to Portishead Town. And on the final day of the season, Moneyfield host Swindon.
Oh my God.
On the final game of the season. Jesus, what a way to end.
So if Moneyfields win that game in hand, you know, regardless, and if Swindon win their other game, it'll go to the final day. That is unbelievable. Right?
I think it would put
Moneyfields would go top
their remaining games. Yes, Moneyfields would be top by 2 points. If my quick maths is correct.
Yeah.
So Swindon would need to win on the final day of the season. A draw would mean Moneyfields would go up.
It's unbelievable.
That is fantastic. I did not realise that was one of the games on the final day of the season. That's a brilliant way to end the season.
What is it?
Look at it as well.
What is it with this tier 3, tier 4 that they've got a final day bonanza, haven't they? Because it's Watford Bournemouth in the Southern Division on the final day, and Swindon.
They've done these games well.
They have. My goodness me.
But just looking at Swindon and Moneyfields, the amount of goals they have scored is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Swindon have scored 77 goals this season and conceded only 12. Moneyfields have scored 74 and only conceded 11. They're just two fantastic sides, aren't they? You'd almost want to bring both of them up.
It was, yeah.
Because it almost feels like Exeter Bournemouth. Was it Exeter Bournemouth?
That's right, yeah.
It was when both went unbeaten.
Yeah.
And Bournemouth stayed down.
It's incredible.
Because Exeter won it on the final day, didn't they?
It is ridiculous. Like that's where you've got teams in tier 4, as we mentioned, you know, earlier in the show, that are too good to be there, because they've got so much quality in their ranks that they are pushing for that spot in tier 3 all the time. And that's where it's cruel in a way that there's no playoff in tier 4, because like you say, after an extraordinary season where, you know, Swindon have only dropped 6 points, Moneyfields have only dropped, let's work out my maths. They've only dropped 5 points all year. That's where it's quite a shame that only one of those will go up. So, but yeah, that is going to be a belter on the final day. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. There's going to be so many games to keep an eye on that final day. It's going to be unbelievable. Like, it's going to be like
you're going to have an A4 page filled on your commentary sheet with games to keep an eye on. You'll have to be writing down the scores.
That's incredible.
You won't be watching us against Billericay. You'll be watching everything else.
That's right. It'd be like the World Cup a few years ago, where I think one group standings changed about 8 times on the final match day. It was absolutely ridiculous. Oh God, I love that. I love when things go to the final day, because it you know, there's nothing better in football. You know, the big example in the men's game is, of course, when Man City and Man United were fighting right on the final day, and that classic Aguero goal 14 years ago, which is unbelievable. Like that's where football is at its best, because late drama and right to the final day, to the wire, as they say, is always unbelievable. But yeah, that's going to be one hell of a lead to keep an eye on. finally, in terms of, well, we've got 2 more leads, but the Midlands lead is seemingly already won by Peterborough. However, I say seemingly, not mathematically just yet, I should add. They have got a game in hand on second place Boldmere and are already 5 clear of them. So, so by winning that final game, by winning that game in hand, they would win the lead. So they're in a hell of a position to do so. And the Peterborough, it'd be nice for them to go up to the Northern Division. At the bottom, though, it's a bit of a scrap, isn't it, for relegation? I'll tell you, it's, you look at Stourbridge, who've got a game in hand on 15 points. You've got Sutton Coldfield on 16, Kiddy Harriers on 18. For their first year in the division, they're doing well. And if they stay up, it's a hell of an achievement for Andy Fisher in his final season. And then Notts County on 19 points. There's only 4 points separating 8th to 11th. I believe the 12th place side is already down or very close to.
Yeah, Lincoln on 2 points. Yeah, there.
Yes, that's right. Because I think it was at the weekend just gone. They were unable to stay. We went a few weekends ago where they were unable to stay up. However, from 8th to 11th, that is a tight old lead, isn't it? That is going to go down to for Stourbridge, it'd be nice for them to stay up. After we had Mike Harris on at the other week, he had some fantastic work. Didn't need to take him all the way to Tier 3. They got relegated last year, however, have struggled this year. But that's where you can't rest on your laurels in Tier 3 and Tier 4 because you need to be able to improve year on year just to stay in the division, that's the unbelievable thing there, Ben, because you see some sides where, it's case in point with Billericay in our league this year, where they were all but down last year. Any other division they would have gone, any other year they would have gone down. However, the season before that, we're a decent team in the Southern Premier Division. Same with MK the season before. When they went down last season, you've got to be able to, either keep hold of your players or, be able to recruit, recruit really well in the summer, because that's where it's make or break for some of these teams, because that's where you really want to keep at the highest level you can. But it's tough. It's really tough at this level to stay where you are. So, yeah, what do you make of that relegation strap? I don't know who goes down there. I know it's only one spot they're fighting for with 4 teams. It's unbelievable that.
Yeah, that is so close. In terms of, unfortunately, I do think it's Stourbridge, just looking kind of the fact they've conceded a lot more. Have a quick look at who they've got coming up. They've got Sheffield, Boldmere and Peterborough. So, on the basis of their games.
That's a terrible one.
I do think they're the ones to go down, unfortunately, which is a shame for them. But, like we've said, it's not the end of the world going down at the moment, because you look at some of the teams that are in Tier 5 close to us, and it's like, FGR are a very, very good side. Gloucester are around there as well, and they're a very, very good side. They pushed us all the way in that County Cup game at the turn of the year. So, like you say, it takes a lot now to be able to stay up, especially when you, like we said, look at the teams coming up. Staying where you are and staying in Tier 4 is, a fantastic achievement for sides like Kiddy Harriers, Sutton Coldfield, Notts County. If Stourbridge can pull it off, that would be brilliant. But it's just, like I say, it's so hard to stay where it is now. It needs so much investment, which a lot of these clubs probably aren't used to. So, it takes a lot of change nowadays where you see, and it's fantastic because the women's game is going so well, but you're almost looking at it and think, well, how can we help these clubs that are starting to struggle potentially with the impact of the game increasing as rapidly as it is? So, I do think, Stourbridge go down there. It's not the end of the world for them. And you've got some really, really good sides in that league. Like I say, it's going all the way down to the wire again, I think, with that.
Certainly is there, Ben. And, we go on to our final WNL league, and it's another one that is quite tight in terms of the league and relegation, actually, where, we looked at Division 1 North. Huddersfield are top on 42 points. Have got a game in hand on Leeds, who are in 19 games, 41 points. But then the really curious thing is Cheadle on third, have 3 in hand on Leeds and 2 in hand on Huddersfield. Yes, the old adage, they need to get the points on the board. And it is a tight old schedule. You think between now, I think they play tonight, don't they? As of
They do.
In about an hour's time, at time of recording, against Wyvenshaw, wasn't it? I think we mentioned before we came on there. Yeah, so that is 6 games to play. I think plus they've got a county cup game to play between now. So that's 7 games between today and the 26th of April, which is just a little over 3 weeks.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous.
Wythenshawe tonight, the Wednesday, as of recording. Chester Lee Street Town on Sunday, the 5th. Then they've got a County Cup game against Stockport County Ladies Reserves on Wednesday next week. Then they play York City on the 12th of April. Then they play on the 16th against Chorley.
God's sake. Yeah.
And then they play on the 19th against Huddersfield. And then they have a week off to prepare for Durham on the final day of the season away. So they've got a few home games in a row, 4 home games in a row, and then 3 away games to end the season. So that's a tough schedule for them. That is really, really tough.
Yeah, it could end up being, they just, as we mentioned, congratulations to them. They won the plate against Moneyfields, on Sunday just gone on penalties. But it could end up being, it's already been a fantastic campaign for them. They were the first ever FA Cup first round game to ever be on TV against Middlesbrough back in October, and then they win the plate, and they've still got a sniff at the league title, which is just unbelievable. And like I say, they've got Huddersfield in that little group of games. So if they win their few games there, hello, it's not over yet for Cheadle Town Stinders. And maybe a sting in the tail. Hey, there you go.
Hey, there we are.
Get the puns in.
Because as well, Leeds don't look like they've got an easy run, and they've got Wythenshawe, they've got Norton and Stockton Ancients. They've got a County Cup game, and then they've got Stockport County on the final day. So they've not got an easy run in either. Yeah. And then for Huddersfield, they have got Blackburn Rovers. They have got, obviously, Cheadle. They've got York. And then on the final day, they host Wythenshawe. So, again, not an easy run-in for any of them, really. So, again, there's another one for you to add to your list on the final day of the season that you'll be keeping an eye on. The league should maybe hire you, and you'll be sat in an office watching all the games. And
all the games. That's it. You know, the incredible thing is there as well. You look at, they are hoping and praying that there is not a waterlogged pitch or an abandoned game, because they just can't afford it with 3 weeks to go. They need to. They are hoping that week off stays a week off. They need that, especially if the title race goes down to the wire as well. But I tell you what,
especially
it's also
playing.
Especially playing
Huddersfield on the 19th, which is
brilliant.
The weekend that the league like to protect for any rearrangements. They've already got a lot of games on that weekend in this division, so they then have to be playing another midweek game. So if there was a waterlogged pitch or anything like that, so best of luck to them. I don't envy them in the slightest. That's like
unbelievable.
A very tough run-in for them, but I think they'd be happy with where they are in the league and winning the plate. That's a fantastic achievement for them. Like I say, playing on live TV in the FA Cup as well. That is just, it's a fantastic season for Cheadle Town. And then you hope that next year they can build on that and then, push for promotion into Tier 3. That would be fantastic to see. It'd be great to see them in Tier 3.
Certainly would, yeah. And just the final word on the WNL before we just quickly move on to the WSL 2, which is also very exciting, and the WSL. Just finally, that relegation scrap between Chester Street, Doncaster, and York, and still potentially Blackburn, although it looks like they are a bit down and out. I believe they're already relegated, aren't they? By the looks of it. I don't know, they might already be down. Oh, no, 5 points adrift with 3 to go, so they're not in a great position. However, it's so for them, it looks like they're unfortunately going down to Tier 5. However, York, Doncaster, and Chester Street only separated by a point, and they still have a fair few games to play. Sides there, Ben, who on just by looking at the table, of course, we haven't covered any of their games this season. of course, when you actually think about it, York did have that great run, didn't they, in the FA Cup? So that's where maybe a few of their
They did.
reschedulements have come from. However,
Mm.
that a few of them sides there have struggled to form in the league. It looks like there because they haven't really amassed. It's that's the lowest in terms of all the leads at the moment for the relegation candidates. However, that is going to be one hell of a scrap to stay in Tier 4 there, isn't it?
Yeah, that'll be. We'll keep adding games to your list for that final day of the season, Owen. There's plenty on there. That's going to be really close, a good one to keep an eye on. Yeah, you almost don't want any of them to go down because they're all such good, well-established Tier 4 sides that don't deserve almost to go down. So it will be a shame for any of them to get relegated to Tier 5. Shame for Blackburn as well after what's happened to them in recent years if they do go down to Tier 5 as well. But like we've said, the leagues are almost getting to where they should be and teams are playing where they should be in terms of their budgets, which you want to see it on a sporting merit. But money is just such a massive factor now, isn't it? Which is why we see teams like Huddersfield, Leeds and Cheadle, doing so well. So, yeah, another good one to keep an eye on. The Women's National League is just such a brilliant league this year. The fact that there's so much to play for going into the final couple of weeks of the season in every league, obviously, other than Fulham's, that's just, just incredible. And it's exactly what you want to see and what's such a growing league and something that's, only going to get better and better.
Yeah, that shows there, Ben, that, we've completely rambled on there about the WNL for about an hour. So that just shows how much has gone on there this season. That there's just so much to play for in all 5-6 leads there. So that is unbelievable. I can't wait to see how it all plays out, how it all ends up. And, it just had to be all the carnage, didn't it? Because obviously in the WSL 2, Ben, there is also still a lot to play for in terms of both ends of the table. However, we'll stick with the relegation point because obviously that's where it looks the most tightest at the moment because you've got 3 sides there from 10th to 12th separated by just a point. Portsmouth on 14 points. They are bottom at the moment and have played the most games out of that bottom 3. Ipswich have 2 in hand and are on 14. Durham are on 15, having played 19. So only one goes down there, Ben, to the 3rd tier. And it looks more than likely at the moment that it will be down to the Southern Division as well.
Yes.
However, that is do you know what? That is a very interesting final few weeks, isn't it? Because Ipswich
really is.
There's Portsmouth. They know they can still scratch a result out of somewhere. They got one out of Charlton the other week, which was unbelievable. And that's where, in the other end of the table, it's absolutely opened up the title race, hasn't it? Where that, But in terms of that, with Portsmouth, I do think that potentially, it's still only a point in it, so it can be anyone's, can't it?
Yeah, I don't think you can count Sheffield United out as being safe either. Only 4 points.
How many points
off.
are they on? Wow,
18.
Wow,
So they're not clear yet. I think if Ipswich or Portsmouth come down, that adds so much quality back to the Southern Premier, doesn't it? If Sheffield or Durham went down to the Northern section, that adds so much quality into that league as well. So it will be really, really interesting to see kind of what happens there. I think, like you say, I think it's Portsmouth that unfortunately look like they're going to be down and out, having played 2 games more and being sat on 14 points in the bottom, which is a shame for them. They went up. It was a long battle last year for them to stay up, but they did it, and full credit to them for it. I think they knew the position they'd be in this year. Ipswich, I thought maybe they'd be safe by now, if I'm totally honest, with how good they were in the league last year. And you look at Nottingham Forest, who went up from the Northern section and are sat in 7th, definitely safe. Look like they're only going to go up and up as well. So, the fact that Ipswich are still there does surprise me. Surprised me that they did part ways with Joe Sheehan as well mid-season. Shame for him, but ultimately the club has high ambitions, doesn't it? And, they really want to stay in the WSL too, and I think they deserve to be there. They're supported so well by their men's side as well, aren't they? Seen Kieran McKenna on the final day of last season at a packed ground there. That was insane. So yeah, it's so close, and whoever comes down, they're going to be right in the question to go straight back up, aren't they?
Yeah, that just shows as well. Like apart from Newcastle and Forest, everybody else in that little, those few teams who have come up have really struggled in the, and Portsmouth, as you say, fought really well last year to stay up, and this season it looks unfortunately for them that they are going to go down. Ipswich and then you see Durham in 10th though. I've just picked up some, as you mentioned, we mentioned it just before we came on air, Ben, that they've picked up some crucial points. And that's where they've sort of maybe just kept themselves a little bit above water. But then, the great thing is with that, the great thing we just mentioned about in terms of teams that have then come up and stayed up, Nottingham and Newcastle have done really, really well, haven't they?
Yeah, they really have. And that's great to see that Newcastle and Nottingham, are there. And Newcastle even pushing to get promoted, They're only 7 points off Birmingham City in second at the moment, which is that second automatic spot. 2 teams up automatically from the WSL2. And then third place will play the bottom of the WSL. So they're still in the race, They're in a good run of form at the moment. Yeah, the fact that Charlton are in the worst run of form out of any of those teams is pretty insane.
Yeah.
And it shows the quality that's in that league as well. I mean, you've got Jordan Nobbs playing for Newcastle as well.
Yeah.
And the fact, I don't think you can count out Bristol either for sneaking into that third place. They're only 5 points off Palace at the moment. Even Southampton aren't that far away. They're only 2 points then behind Bristol on 28.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, it's such an amazing league, isn't it, to keep an eye on. I mean, you really can't call who's actually going to get promoted and then stay in the division. So, like I say, it's fantastic advertisement for the women's game. It's great to see where it's going. Great to see it's so competitive at both ends as well. So, yeah, it's really exciting. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on that.
Certainly will, yeah. Blues obviously play tonight in their game in hand, and they can level on points with Charlton, and with then 2 games. How many games to go in that lead? Would it be? I always think of just of the third tier. How many?
About 2 games.
Is 2.
Yeah, because 12 teams, they'll play 22, won't they? So
yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yeah,
yes, that's right.
Quick math.
Yeah. I just had to think about that for a minute.
I know. Charlton and Birmingham have both played 20. Palace and Newcastle have played 19.
Yeah.
So be interesting to keep an eye on that.
It will, and like you say, with Palace occupying that third spot at the moment, obviously with that, it's a promotion/relegation playoff, isn't it? Because that's where Leicester currently sitting bottom of the WSL and having quite a torrid season of it, Ben. Obviously, you keep a close eye on it with the Villa women, and Leicester have just, I don't know what it is, because at one point Liverpool and West Ham looked like they were having terrible campaigns, but then Leicester have just had quite a bad run, haven't they? So it's for them, it's a shame. However, given how poor their season's been, they might end up staying up if they were to beat that third place team.
Yeah, and they've got some great quality in that Leicester side as well. Alicia Lane was obviously the one that comes to mind as being a standout name. And yeah, at the start of the season, you thought Liverpool were down and out. They've picked up a couple of wins in their last few. I was worried as a Villa fan as well at one point that we'd be dragged right down into there, but we're slowly picking up the points. There was a great performance against Chelsea, 4-3 win for Chelsea on Sunday. And West Ham as well, they aren't, safe. Only a couple of points ahead of Leicester, so it's going to be really interesting to keep an eye on all these leagues on the final days of the season. And yeah, you really can't call any of them.
No, you're quite right there, Ben. And just finally, the final point we will make about the WSL before we wrap things up is obviously the point that with Leicester and whoever finishes in third, the WSL club in that equation has a bit longer to prepare for that playoff game. And I believe that playoff game, Ben, will be the 23rd of May or in and around that weekend. And the WSL season finishes about, 1 or 2 weeks earlier than the WSL 2?
Yeah, something like that, which is just crazy and almost favours the WSL side. But is it then more handy to have played more recently?
Yeah.
And be in better match fitness? I guess you could look at it both ways. So, yeah, that will be a good game of football to watch as well. Like I say, one-off game can go either way.
Yeah.
So, that would be so interesting to keep an eye on. And yeah, a great way almost to end the season.
Definitely so, Ben. Yeah, it'd be fantastic to see what will happen across the world of women's football in the top 4 tiers, we should say. It's been it's been fantastic. But we'll keep an eye on it. It'll be an absolute crescendo, the grand finale. It's going to be an absolute mental end to what's been a really good season. So yes, we've really enjoyed that.
It's been a nice 2-hour podcast with us, debriefing it all.
That's right. Oh, certainly. Oh, good grief. We love a good chat. But when there's so much to chat about, when there's so much, on those final few games, that's why you just love football, don't you, Ben?
Yeah, definitely. And it's the whole reason why we do what we do, working within women's football media and then starting up this podcast, it's in such a good place at the moment. I think it's fantastic to see how it's growing. And then I guess the next thing is the Lionesses winning the World Cup before the men. That will be interesting, won't it?
That's it. Yeah. Oh, yes. It's in Brazil next year, that World Cup. And a quick mention actually for the squad announcement for England. For that 17-year-old who got through. Yeah. I can't remember her name for the life of me. I should have wrote that down.
Erica Meg Parkinson.
Yes, what a fantastic get for Serena Wiedmann. She plays in the Portuguese league, which is brilliant. And that shows that if there is talent there, it doesn't matter how young you are, you're going to get into that Lionesses setup.
Yeah, I think she was selected as more just to train and learn how the Lionesses do things. She's come through the youth levels. Yeah. She could have represented about 4 countries, which is unbelievable. But she's gone with England. She looks like a great talent. Hopefully, she can get a couple of minutes in one of the games in this window. But yeah, with injuries being such a big part of women's football as well at the moment, to see 17-year-olds getting a chance in the senior Lionesses squad is just brilliant. Yeah, it's a brilliant positive note to end the episode on, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Long may that continue. And, we've seen that with quite a few of the Welsh setup as well, with our Welsh trio, Cassie, Charles and Amo as well, and Phoebe and Tiana for Plymouth. So, yeah, it's always great to see. We love seeing players represent their country from Tier 3 as well. Brilliant. That's yes, thank you, Ben. It's been brilliant once again to ramble on about Tier 3 and Tier 4. And
we're good at that.
We are indeed, aren't we? It's, interesting final few weeks, but thanks for today. It's been really good.
Yeah, it has. It's been great to sit and go through all the leagues in depth and be able to look at some of the games that we'll be turning to you to keep an eye on that final day of the season.
I'll have a massive spreadsheet. I'll just be there with all the games, all the permutations, everything. I'll be there at Billericay, and I won't even be watching the Billericay game. I'll just be like, right, there's been 2 goals in 5 minutes. I'll just be there. It'll be fantastic.
Basically, we're going to have Soccer Sunday with Owen Mason on the WNL all by himself.
Live for the women's football debrief. There you go. That's it. Oh, I promise.
Stream it live on YouTube.
That's right. Oh, brilliant. What have I got myself in for? No good. Good. Very good. Right, Ben, lovely stuff. And we'll try and catch up with another podcast very, very soon. Let's hopefully get another guest done before the end of the campaign.
Indeed, yeah. It'd be great to get another special guest on and hear more great stories.
Lovely. Right. For myself, Owen Mason, I've loved it once again. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.